Hi, welcome back to the Weekly Word. Thanks for watching this week. I'm really excited. I have found something for the first time in my life that I've read just in a couple of old obscure books about, and hardly anybody knows about this anymore. But we're at the grave of Bob Stratton. I'm going to read it to you right here. Maybe the camera will pick it up too. He was in the Confederate States of America. Robert D. Stratton, 69th Regiment of the Tennessee Mounted Infantry, CSA. He was killed here September 3rd, 1864. Corporal Robert Stratton. I'll tell you the story about him here in a minute, but lay a little bit of the background. Early on in the Weekly Word, when we got started a year or two ago, we did a segment on an episode on Absalom Stratton, who was buried at Stratton Meadows. That was his grandpa. Absalom was the father of John, who actually lived at the Meadows there. And this was John's son, Robert, or Bob. Most people know about Bob Stratton Bald up on the state line today. A beautiful place up there about a mile high. And he lived very near there at Swan Meadows and grazed his stock and things on the Bob Stratton Bald. Actually tried to raise corn up there one year, and he found out the growing season wasn't long enough to raise corn that high, I've read. But he was in the Civil War, and he got wounded, the story goes, at one of the battles over around Nashville. And he'd come home with a rifle that he brought back from the war. I read somewhere it was a Spencer rifle. Really nice gun for this area back then. And he had come off the mountain and went down to the store at Tellico. And while he was in the store at Tellico, one of the bushwhacking Kirklands, we did an episode on them too, the unknown man killed by the bushwhacking Kirklands at Mud Gap. Well, they eyed that rifle. And this was the old road. We're on Ballplay Creek. We've come off of Buck Highway, and the old Ballplay Creek Road, the story goes, went right up through here, dead ends now, but it used to travel all the way up, and I think it connected up with maybe part of the old Hemlock Road. That's how they made it up to the state line, the Beach Gap area back then. It's way before any of these other roads that go up by the Indian base today. But the Kirklands had run on ahead. They wanted that rifle, and they were waiting here in the forks of the road. And one story said they had dropped a handkerchief and something in the road, and Bob Stratton and a Roberts boy came riding up, and they stopped to see what that was, and that was the cue. When they bent over to touch that thing, they all unloaded on them two guys, and it killed Bob Stratton kind of instantly. The Roberts boy was wounded and was able to crawl off in the woods somewhere. I guess they weren't interested in him because he ain't the one with the rifle. But he lived for about another week before he died, but he was able to tell everybody what happened, how the bushwhacking Kirklands had killed Bob Stratton. And they buried him on the bank up here high out of the floodplain of Ballplay Creek on the side of the road here. And I just heard a few things about it and read about that for many years. And this is the first day I've able to finally get enough information to locate this, and it's hidden really well off the side of the road. And I got enough information out of the books to get me to the neighborhood here, and I talked to a couple of the older folks in the neighborhood I saw sitting on the porch and standing out by the road, and kind of directed me here, and I found it. And I know lots of folks around this area that nobody else knows where Bob Stratton is buried, but here he is. Well, I guess the way we can tie this into our weekly word is, you know, all these shootings that you see on TV these days are bad, but they've always been around. As long as there's people that don't fear God, there's going to be people that don't have any respect for human life, and they'd take a man's life just to get his rifle off of him, or even less anymore. So I guess the answer to that is we need to get Christianity spread more than it is if we're going to slow these things down. Because as long as there's a large segment of America that has no fear of God, we're still going to be living with some of the atrocities that we see today. We'll see you next week on the Weekly Word. Thanks for joining us.